If your plan is to move to Canada, or you're still thinking whether or not you should move to Canada, well, this video is for you, because in this video I'm going to be breaking down the different ways that you can move to Canada and specifically discussing the PR route and the study route. I am Mara, a Nigerian immigrant currently living in Canada. On here, I share real tips to help immigrants and aspiring immigrants to thrive in Canada. If you end up finding this video helpful, please kindly help me click the like button and also consider subscribing to the channel. This video is inspired by a comment I received in one of the videos that I made in the past. Someone had asked, Mara, why did you choose to move to Canada as a student and not as a permanent resident? Instead of just answering this question in the comment section, I decided to just make a video about it because I found prospects in that question that can actually help empower someone else in their decision-making process. We are going to be breaking this video into 3 parts. The first part is going to be how you can actually migrate to Canada as a student. The second part is going to be how you can migrate to Canada as a permanent resident. And the third part, of course, is going to be my story on why I decided to come to Canada as a student. If you want to come to Canada as a student, the first thing to do would be to get an admission. I have made a video talking about how you can apply for admission in Canada when I had just arrived here, when the whole thing was just very fresh in my head, so I'm very sure it's going to be helpful. I will link it here for you to go watch that video immediately after this one. However, something to keep in mind when seeking admission to any Canadian university is to make sure it is a DL institution, that is designated learning institution. When you go to a DLI institution, your postgraduate work permit is guaranteed because those schools have been accredited, or whatever you can think of it, has been approved by the government. So that way, when you go to a school that is a DLI institution, you're going to be sure that you're going to get your postgraduate work permit. I mean, of course, when you meet every other criteria to obtain your postgraduate work permit. You have done your due diligence, you've done your research, and now you've decided the school you want to go to, and that school is a DLI institution, and you apply to the school, they reply you, and they give you the admission. Of course, it's going to take you some time gathering your document and all of that, which is something I preach a lot. Make sure you take your time even before you get into the whole process of application. Make sure you have gathered your documents. If you need to obtain your transcripts from your school, of course, to get an admission, you must have provided all the transcript and all the necessary information. I always recommend you take your time to gather those information and those certifications, so that once you start your application, once you dive into the process, nothing is holding you back. After receiving your admission from a DLI institution, the next thing would be to dive into your visa process. Okay, and this is where I think it gets a little bit technical. However, it is not even as complicated as it also sounds. The first thing that you would need after getting your admission is a provincial attestation letter, because you need this letter to be able to apply for your visa. Towards the end of 2024, the government introduced this just because there was a cap put on the study permits that they want to give out for international students. It is a document that is provided by the province where the school you are going to is resided, right? But it has to be obtained through your university. So once you have the admission, you can also go through the process of getting your PAL from the school. Once you have your provincial attestation letter and you have your admission letter, these are the 2 major documents you need to now fully qualify to pursue your Canadian study permit. There are 5 major documents or things that you need to provide to pursue your visa. In no particular order, these documents include international passport, a statement of purpose, a proof of funds, and your medicals, and in some cases, also depending on the visa route that you're taking, a proof of language proficiency might also be required. I have also made a video on this channel talking about how I got my Canadian visa in 10 days. I'm going to link it here so you guys can see. I made that video in real time when I had just arrived Canada and the whole process was still in my head, so I'm going to put it here. It's going to help you guys. Again, keep in mind that some policies has changed, because when I came here, the provincial attestation letter wasn't a thing. I didn't even know what that was. Okay, so it's just something that recently started, so keep in mind that some information you would hear me talk about in that video was from over almost 3 years ago, so also do an updated research. Also, for your proof of funds, I have an extensive video on proof of funds on this channel. I'm going to refer you guys to that. The reason why I keep referring you guys to these videos is because I extensively discussed the topic, so it's going to be very, very helpful for you if that is actually the information you are seeking, because this video is just to specifically explain the processes that you can take to come into Canada. Let's assume you have now gathered all the documents we've talked about right now, and it's time to apply. You can apply directly through the RSCC secured account, that is the GC Key account, you can apply directly through the portal, and you're just going to wait till you hear a response from them. Keep in mind that there is an application fee for your visa, and of course there's just an application fee for your admission. One more document that you would also need to provide that I forgot to mention is a police character clearance certificate. You can obtain that from any of your local police stations from your home country. After you've submitted your application, you just wait for a decision by the visa officer, and once you get a feedback from the visa agent that reviewed the application, they are either approving it or denying it, or they are asking you for supporting documents if there is anything that they think that you had missed. Let's say they approve the application, because that is what I pray for you. They've approved your application. The next thing you're going to do would be your biometrics. And also something that I would love to point out is that for your medicals, there is something that is called upfront medicals. So you can actually do your medicals before you even submit your visa application. So then it is part of the document you would submit. Remember, I did mention it. However, it is not mandatory. Sometimes it's your decision. You can decide not to do the medicals till you are sure that you've gotten your visa. So when the visa officer is satisfied with all the information you've provided in your application, and they are willing to give you the visa, the first thing they do would be to ask you to go for a medicals, right? But if you've done the medicals, they will not send you back for that. They will just send you to go do your biometrics. All right, so if you've done medicals, you're only going to do your biometrics. If you didn't do medicals, that's upfront medicals, you will be going for your biometrics and your medicals. So that will be the next thing, and these things would also incur cost. Of course, once everything is done and they are okay with that, they are going to request for your passport, and you send in your passport, they stamp your passport, and they get it back to you, and that is all. You book your flight and you're on your way to Canada. That is literally the simplest way I can explain the process of coming to Canada as a student. I moved from Nigeria, so this is my perspective as someone that moved to Canada from Nigeria. And eventually you complete your program, you're going to get postgraduate work permit, and your postgraduate work permit, the number of the years is going to be determined by the duration of your program. If you did a 2 years master's degree or 2 years, anything that is within like about 2 years program, right, you're going to get a 3 years postgraduate work permit. If you did a year certification or diploma or anything that is less than a year, you're going to be getting maybe 1 year or up to the number of the months your program lasted. From there, you work in Canada, and eventually if you want to pursue your permanent residency when you are done, you can pursue that. If you don't want to pursue that, once you're done with your program, you can leave Canada. Now let's go to moving to Canada as a permanent resident. I do not have experience in this because of course I didn't come here as a permanent resident, but it's not something that is new to me. I kind of know the process. In fact, when I get to my story part, you guys are going to hear my experience and why I decided to come as a student. There are a couple of ways to move to Canada as a permanent resident, but to be honest, the most popular ones that most Nigerians and most Africans use is the express entry route and the provincial nomination route. Both routes are for skilled professionals who want to move to Canada that already are experienced in their field and they want to make contribution to Canada, and they are like, oh, Canada, I want to come to your country. I have certain skill. I'm equipped with this. I'm a professional in this, and I really want to bring in the experience that I have. It is technically for skilled workers, people that already have experience in their field. The express entry process of moving into Canada as a permanent resident and as a skilled worker is actually a point-based system. This point-based system is calculated using some metrics, and some of them would include age. So keep in mind that if you're below the age of 30, your point will still be good, but once you are above 30, your point will start reducing. There is also education. If you have master's degree, if you have PhD, those higher education, the better points you have. There's also the English proficiency. The better marks you have in your English test, the better for you. And there's also work experience. How many work experience do you have in that field that you are into, that you want to bring the experience to Canada? These are the major things that impact your points in the pool. So if you're looking to move to Canada as a permanent resident and your points in the express entry pool is low, one way to boost it is to aim for provincial nominations. Let's say, for instance, you want to move to Saskatchewan. You can, apply for the provincial nomination program. If you are picked, if you meet their criteria, then it kind of boosts your points. However, keep in mind that if you go through that route, you are going to move to that province, and you have to stay in that province that gave you that nomination for at least 3 years before you move. But I have heard of a case of a lady that left the province that nominated her and eventually moved to a different province in less than 3 years. I heard that she was able to write the mayor that I can't find a job here. I know that this province nominated me, but since I came here, I've been here for a year, 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. I can't find a job, and I found another job in a different province, and they gave her the permission to move. So that is something that you have to keep in mind with provincial nomination. The processing time for your permanent residency when you are outside of Canada is something that is highly unpredictable, but the minimum, if you want to put a cap on it, would be around 6 months. But I've seen people that got responses in less than 6 months, 5 months. I've also seen people that waited for more than 2 years. So it is something that there is no rule for. Once you enter the pool, once you do a calculation of your CRS score and you're in the pool, my dear, just leave it to God, because what I always say about immigration is that it is actually a journey of faith and patience, and for that type of journey you have to carry God and put on your head, because you have to really be patient and let God do his thing for you. When it is time for the CRS draw and your points happen to be above the cutoff, just thank God, because you'll be invited to apply for your permanent residency. Well, because this video is not about permanent residency, this is where we'll be drawing it, but at least you guys understand the process. If you watch to this point and you're finding this video helpful, please kindly help me hit the like button, and thank you. So moving to the third aspect of this video, which is my story. Honestly, I don't even know how I'm going to get into this story, but I'm going to try and summarize it for you guys as much as I can. I came to Canada as a student in August of 2022. Prior to then, I already knew that I was going to move to Canada, and I knew that I was going to come to do my master's degree. I love education, kind of like I'm someone that wants to seek knowledge. If I can get a PhD, trust me, I will, but I don't think I'm in the mood anymore. But yeah, I've always loved education. The first time that I thought of moving to Canada, I wanted to explore education, but also considering the cost of tuition, I was like, oh my goodness, it's so expensive. Maybe I should explore coming here as a permanent resident. And for age and so many other things, it kind of looked good for me, but education wasn't giving me so much points because I didn't have a master's degree. I was almost going to get a master's degree in Nigeria just to boost my points and process coming to Canada as a permanent resident. But at some point I just felt like it just wasn't worth it, because I had gone to the school to inquire of the cost and all, and I just felt like, you know what, since I really want to pursue education and this is really what I want to do, I don't really think I want to go to school in Nigeria anymore. I think I just want to school abroad. And that was how I just concluded that I was going to come to Canada as a student. And I felt like it was also a win-win situation for me, because I knew that I was also interested in the permanent residency program. So all I needed to do was just to come into Canada. Immediately I come into Canada and I finish my program, I'm going to eventually pursue, the process for my PR. And that is it. So I just made a decision based on what I felt was best for me, because I really wanted the master's. It was beyond just moving abroad for me. It was beyond just moving, even though, to be honest, I had so many other reasons why I wanted to leave Nigeria, not just academics, but in aspects of moving, deciding the path that I wanted to take, it just was inevitable that I was going to come here as a student, because again, like I said, I wanted to do my master's. And comparing it with the process in Nigeria and my inquiries with the school, I just felt like this wasn't going to work. I'd rather just apply and come here, do my master's, and eventually pursue the permanent residency process. Does that make sense? Okay, so I hope this video helps you. I hope someone found this video helpful, and I hope it informs your decision and helps you decide. At least you now have a mental understanding, at least to a level of what it takes to come as a student and what it would take to come as a permanent resident, so that way you make an informed decision. Again, help me like this video, subscribe to my channel if you want. I would love you too, and I'll see you in my next video.